But on last Friday's episode of his show Real Time, Maher proposed a different strategy for beating Trump. The problem with his idea is it appeals to, in my opinion, almost no one.
Kasparian and Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks covered a proposal, an incredibly stupid proposal, in my opinion, by Bill Maher about what he feels the Democrats should do in the upcoming presidential election for 2024 to change their ticket. Kasparian and Cenk Uygur give their reasons why they think this is a bad idea. I'm going to give some different reasons why I think it's a bad idea. I mostly agree with them on this subject, but there are some things that they don't discuss here that I'm going to get into. So let's go ahead and play the clip of them talking about this, and then I will interject some thoughts.
You think Biden should drop out of the race?
Of course, I said it long ago. I called him Ruth Bader Biden.
Ruth Bader Biden. Do you worry that that could help Trump, that Trump might get?
If Biden drops out, they'll win, without doubt. Biden should drop out. That's the point. He's being selfish.
Bill Maher has repeatedly, and to be honest with you, accurately stated that Biden should drop out of the race and leave room for a stronger Democratic candidate to run against Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee. But on last Friday's episode of his show Real Time, Maher proposed a different strategy for beating Trump. The problem with his idea is it appeals to, in my opinion, almost no one, except for Bill Maher, I guess. So here's his idea. Here's what he said verbatim, quote, "I know it's crazy that Nikki Haley could run with Biden, but that's my dream, a unity ticket. And then Biden, I think, would definitely win." He adds a caveat saying, of course, she said some crazy things. Most politicians have, not as crazy as we've never been a racist country. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But his dream ticket would be Joe Biden and Nikki Haley. And obviously this would mean that Biden would have to dump Vice President Kamala Harris, which I don't think he has any will to do. But putting that aside, let's just say Bill Maher gets what he wants. Really, would a Biden-Nikki Haley ticket, would that be your dream ticket? Because Nikki Haley, her brand of Republicanism is Bush-era neoconservatism.
Okay, before we get into what Cenk Uygur has to say, I'm going to say I agree mostly with what Kasparian is talking about here, with a couple of different caveats on that. The first part is I agree that Joe Biden should not be the Democrats' candidate for president for 2024. He's too old. He's too unpopular. They should be going with someone much younger, someone with much better, more progressive, in my opinion, policies. Here's the problem with that. The time to do that was a year or two ago. He never should have been the candidate in 2020, but Bernie was doing well. The Democratic establishment did not want Bernie in there because he's an actual progressive. So they all dropped out at the same time. All the other candidates dropped out at the same time, put all of their power behind Biden to make sure that Bernie wouldn't get it. And, the rest is history. But I think what people underestimate when they're talking about, just get Biden out of there and get a younger candidate in there. Who are you, or a better candidate in there? Who are you going to put in there? What nobody talks about enough in politics is name recognition. So you put a new person in there. Let's say it's Gavin Newsom. Okay, people who follow politics know Gavin Newsom. People who live in California obviously know Gavin Newsom. The average person voting in presidential elections is not that tuned in. So you have to introduce the rest of the country who doesn't pay attention to politics closely to Gavin Newsom, just as an example. They've talked about governors, Democratic governors from various states that, again, the average person doesn't know. So I do not think that the Democrats can change candidates, change horses in the middle of the race at this point. It's too late. They should have done this a year or two ago. They should have had a real primary. That's what neither party ever does this when they have an incumbent. They do not have a primary, which I think all of these politicians at every level should be primaried in every election. So that's number one. It's too late to change. Number two, Democrats, the Democratic establishment and the centrists, the quote unquote centrists, love this unity ticket idea. And it's only the Democrats that talk about this. Republicans never talk about this because Democrats hate their base. They have this fantasy that there's some Republican somewhere in the suburbs, and they get into this a little bit. The Democratic establishment is obsessed with that. Nobody wants that. Republicans don't want that. The Democratic base doesn't want that. Republicans fear their base, so they do everything that's why we have, it's the Republican Party is the Trump party at this point. That's why we have Trump in control, because their base controls the party, whereas Democrats try everything they can to get away from their base. So yeah, to the Democratic establishment, this sounds like an appealing idea. Pair Joe Biden with Nikki Haley. That would be a disaster. She's anti-abortion. So you bring in somebody who's staunchly anti-abortion. She wants to cut Social Security. Social Security is the most popular program in the country. Overwhelming support. And you already have a problem with Joe Biden with young people cutting. Having somebody who wants to cut Social Security is not going to help you at all with young people. And a certain country that is involved in a war right now, who Joe Biden has received more money from than any other politician. That's not widely reported, but he's received almost $12 million between his time in the Senate and his time as president from that country. Well, Nikki Haley has said that we need that country more than they need us. A country that the United States has, over the years, has been giving $10 million a day to, plus all the weapons that we're giving now and the ramped up support that we've provided to them in their war that they're involved in. So that's not going to help you with your base either.
Bringing in someone like Nikki Haley or Mitt Romney as a so-called dream ticket. Okay, but it's a cover story. And for them, they don't even realize it's a cover story. They genuinely believe it. I've seen it in action with people who are genuinely saying it, not just people on TV. And the group that I'm talking about is establishment Democrats who largely agree with establishment Republicans. And they're usually wealthy. They're almost all in the top 10%. A lot of them are in the top 1%. And they have friends that are in that same group. And for those guys, well, Nikki Haley, Mitt Romney, Joe Biden, they all give me tax cuts. They all deregulate. They all are in favor of the status quo. And the status quo has been terrific to Bill Maher and everyone else in that group, right? They don't want a lot of change. That's why they're not for Bernie or progressives or outsiders. They just want a little bit of pleasant change if possible, right? But mainly don't upset the status quo. The problem is almost everyone in power belongs to that group and the rest of the country does not. So they constantly keep making the mistake of thinking, oh my God, if we bring Nikki Haley in, we bring Liz Cheney in, we bring in all these neocons to our party, the country will love us. No, the country never liked those people in the first place. That's why Republican voters have even rejected, not just Nikki Haley, but the Cheneys of the past, right? And the Democratic voters never liked them in the first place. But unfortunately, because of Bill Maher and Joe Scarborough and everyone in establishment media, now some significant chunk of Democratic primary voters somehow think that Nikki Haley and Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney are on our team. They are not on our team. They are massive neocons. They're terrible people with terrible policies, and I wouldn't want them anywhere near power.
The Trump era has completely changed the landscape of our politics. Let's just keep it real, right? Because what happened after 2016 was you have some amount, a crop of Republicans in power, the Republican elite, looking at Trump. They're disgusted by him. And so they're the Never Trump Republicans who got absorbed into the Democratic Party. The Never Trump Republicans also happen to be the Bush era brand of Republicans. And I hate them deeply. Okay, the ones who love the forever wars, the ones who want to intervene in any conflict on the globe, in the globe. I don't like these people. Their policies don't resonate with me. They don't prioritize what's best for the American people. And so if they're gonna be sucked into the Democratic Party, and they have increasingly been sucked into the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
you mentioned Liz Cheney. I mean, Liz Cheney is celebrated among the Democratic elite right now.
And Ann is exactly right. Liz Cheney is a horrible far-right Republican. Dad obviously was terrible with foreign policy. So I agree with most of what Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are saying here about Bill Maher. It's a stupid idea to do this unity ticket thing. It would be almost a guaranteed loser for the Democrats and almost guarantee that Trump would get reelected. I just disagree with Anna and Cenk and Bill Maher about this idea of Biden dropping out. Yes, he's too old. Yes, he's a poor candidate. He should have dropped out much sooner. It's too late now. It's just they've got to ride with who they have now. There's not enough time to bring in a new candidate for a presidential election that's going to be a very important presidential election. But what do you think? Are Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur and myself correct here, or is Bill Maher the person who's right? Do you agree with Bill Maher? Do you agree with Anna Kasparian? Leave a comment, a like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.